The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining today's session on Manufacturing Power Hour. Today I'll be talking about a couple of tools that are available to you on the Inventor install, the Design Assistant and the Drawing Transfer Wizard resource. About M2. M2 Technologies is a consulting firm focused on productivity, improving manufacturing process efficiencies, and reducing manufacturing costs. Using generative design and best-in-class manufacturing and asset management processes, our team of industry experts can help you become more sustainable, more profitable, and more prepared to meet the demands of urbanization in a rapidly changing world. What we also do is some BIM for manufacturing, some asset management, some process optimization, and data management. We're also an industry-leading partner with Autodesk, Panzora, Eagle Point Pinnacle, and Bluebeam. Some of our services, but not limited, are CAD management, software development, data management, generative design, CAM training and standards development, just to name a few. Hello, my name is Don Warner, and a little bit about myself. I'm an applications engineer with 30 years experience between field and the Autodesk software environment. I've been an Autodesk Partner AE for about 10 years. I've worked in Autodesk product support for about 13 years. And prior to those support positions, I was a manufacturing designer for 7 years. Today's agenda will roughly be going over some of the features of Design Assistant, how you can use copy and rename to manage files, utilizing the pack and go feature on a top-level assembly or a sub-assembly if you wish, understanding the search capabilities to find specific information. And in the drawing resource wizard, we'll talk about swapping out information between drawing files to quickly copy information instead of redoing it. So a little bit about the Design Assistant functions. The Design Assistant, again, is a small program that is basically installed when Inventor is installed. It is used a set of tools for someone who has not installed Vault. If you've installed a basic Vault or a Vault Professional, this tool is not necessarily something you want to use. You want to use the tools inside Vault for all your renaming and copying functions. Design Assistant can also find and track and maintain your Inventor files related to your Word documents, your spreadsheets, or text files that might be linked to your Inventor files. You also can perform searches based on relationships between your files, create reports, or work links between your Inventor files. You may be able to edit different file types or groups within the same session, or to work with between the linked files that you've seen. And in the icons or the screenshots that you see in the very top one, you'll notice that you can access the Design Assistant from your Start menu. This will be located in your Autodesk Inventor folder. You simply open that folder, scroll down until you see the Design Assistant for the release that you are using. Underneath that is a simple screenshot of the tool of Design Assistant. There's not much to it. You simply open File, or you open Folders, and you can manipulate the information between the three areas of Properties, Preview, and Manage. So again, talk a little bit more about the three areas. The Design Assistant always provides a way of managing the linkage relationship between the Inventor files. Again, if you are looking to rename files or revise files and replace files, create product configurations, this is a good tool to use. Again, setting the file location for the current session in the Design Assistant is done through your set project, whatever your project is. set. Your default workspace will be set within that project file. From within the Design Assistant, you can copy properties from one file to another. Pretty powerful tool if you think of your iProperties in your part files or your IDWs. If there are multiple pieces of information in there, instead of sitting there and filling them out every file you open, once you do it once, you can simply go ahead and push these properties from one file to another. You can also manage your file relationships if you have linked files that are in here, or the files that are linked per se from a part file to an IDW, that in a way is linked. You can also manage those relationships, and I'll demo that a little bit later. There is an option to create simple text reports on some of the information in Design Assistant, and you have the option of preview in files to make sure you are working on the file that is intended to be modified. So talk a little bit about the properties area. In the upper left-hand corner, the screenshot shows the properties icon. You simply can look at the properties of a part file. In this instance, you'll see that I am showing you that I have a linked Excel spreadsheet in that part file called the arbor_frame. And underneath that, you'll notice I am showing an example of an IDW that has a linked image of a title block assigned to that. Also, from within the properties area, you could see the copy design properties, which is the information just below the pack and go text. This is basically where you can go ahead and you can select the properties of the source file you want to copy from and go ahead and target the file that you want to push in there. You can also select the related files. You can also do subfolders. So there's a little bit of control where you can do a mass dump of these iProperties. And underneath that is talking about the pack and go. Now the pack and go allows you to create a complete copy of the information. Most of the time you can do this on the IDW or the DWG, the drawing files, or you can do this at the top level. Again, it's designed to grab all the information needed for those files to open. So it's a nice way you can copy a complete set of data if you had versioning you were looking to accomplish. And taking a look at the preview area, it's pretty straightforward. This allows you to basically load in, if you're doing an assembly file, you can see the hierarchy of the assembly. You can go ahead and select on the part. It will show you a simple preview of the information on that part file or subassembly. Again, you can select up to 6 parts, and it will have the preview for 6 files. If you want to reset that back to 1, you simply hit the refresh button. That's pretty much it with the preview, pretty straightforward. And take a look at the managed area. The managed area is pretty much where you'll probably do majority of your work. This is where Design Assistant provides you a way to basically rename and change file locations, make complete copies of data sets outside of the pack and go. Again, this will allow you to perform different actions on part files. Also in the screenshots to the top, the one on the left shows that I'm highlighting the Opera Press assembly, and the one to the immediate right of that, I have the find files and include the types. Underneath that in the bold red rectangle, basically what I'm doing there is I'm trying to find the associated IDW or DWG files with this assembly within that workspace. So what's nice about this is you can go ahead and you want to maybe rename your assembly file, or maybe do some other information. You can also do the renaming to the IDW underneath that. So again, trying to make a little bit easier for you. If you did not do this in Design Assistant and you did it in regular Windows Explorer by renaming files, you would more likely come up with a missing link reference when you try to open the files natively in Inventor. So this will keep the information associated. So again, you want to do all your renaming and copying here. Again, trying to show you under the screenshots underneath the top. These are the ones on the bottom. You can see where I'm right-clicking in the action area. This is where you can do rename, copy, and replace. Replace also allows you to go ahead and replace it with another file. And there is also a purge option. You can do this in Design Assistant. You can also do this through Windows Explorer. What Design Assistant purge option allows you to do is just simply remove the old versions of the file for quicker cleanup. Within each project file, or basically wherever the drawing, IDW, DWG, part, assembly, wherever those files are being opened from the directory structure that you're in, you'll notice that it will create, or Inventor will create, an old versions folder. The old versions are basically generated per a setting in your project file. Now your setting that I'm talking about is the screenshot that's on the lower part of the slide in the middle, the project's dialog box. In the bottom part of the set project file, for example, that one set is called seminar, you'll see the old versions to save. -1 is all, or you can go to 10. So the settings there are -1, 1, all the way to 10. And to briefly explain that is, if I had a setting of 1 there, which it is, it only allows one old version of the file. So if I had a part file up and I hit save, it would record a version of it. The next time I would hit another save, it would overwrite that old version that it just saved. So if I change that to 5, that value to 5, I would allow myself 5 backups of that version. So again, saving the part file, make 5 modifications, it will save incremental timestamps for those 5 saves. If I hit the 6th save, it will then overwrite the oldest last auto save or backup per se. If you do set -1 there, you will have every old version copy. If you hit save 100 times, you're going to have 100 old versions in it. So it's something you want to be aware of when you do that. But again, it is based off your project file. Again, the if you're selecting an assembly purge, you can purge all the files within that assembly. If it's just a part file, it purges only the part file. So again, if you have an assembly file and it's got information, lots of old part file saves and subassembly saves, a purge will clean that up. Again, it's just for more disk space and maintenance. With that, I'll just jump into the Design Assistant and just kind of go over a little demo of the tools that I just spoke about. Let me go ahead and switch. Before I show you the Design Assistant, let me just jump to Inventor. And first, I just want to talk about the copy properties. If you look at this Arbor Press, and I come up here to my properties. You'll notice in the properties here, again, just kind of go through summary. I've got information filled out here. It takes my login information, so I'll just make my name change here. So I'm filling out my iProperties. I've got a bunch of information here filled out. So project information is a bunch of information here filled out. So I'll apply it. And you'll notice here my what I call my destination IDW. You'll notice here that the information, the authors, my old name here, and so it's just there's empty information in this file. This is the destination file. So in order for this to work, what I'm going to do is just close down Inventor, and I'll switch back to Design Assistant. There you go. Sorry about that. I'm just getting his Inventor closed down. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll go to my Open command, and I'll go ahead and I'll find that Arbor Press. You can see that it references my assembly in here. And I can just right click over that file and say copy design properties. And what do I want to copy them to? So it automatically will pick up the default file. And then for here, I can say I want to go ahead and push that into my destination file. I'll go ahead and I'll just select all these ones to copy. And again, you have the drawing up and down arrow. Here, if you wanted to copy specific areas, but I shouldn't be just picking off the ones here that are blank. These are all the ones that I filled out. Like it's not going to copy any of the ones that don't have any values on it. So up here in the current folder, I'm going to go ahead and select the destination file. So again, if you had subfolders here, I'm in the current folder, but again, you can see that I'm going to go ahead and I'll pick that. And this is where it's going to go ahead and push it across. And you want to replace it, and it will warn you saying, hey, it's already got this filled out in the destination file. So again, it's nice. I'm just going to say yes to all. It's going to go ahead and push that across. I'll say done here. And I will open up Inventor. So I've gone ahead and opened up the destination file. You can see at the top of the screen. And if I right click on my top part here and go to properties, you will see now that all this information has been pushed across. It's a really neat tool that will allow you some definite time saving by not having to fill out all that information. I'll switch back to Design Assistant. Next, what I'd like to just briefly go over is the pack and go function. You noticed here I have the IDW open. Underneath that, it does show that it's related drawing information is being pulled from the Arbor Press assembly file. If I right click over the Arbor Press assembly file, there's your pack and go option. If you wanted to do that over the drawing file, that's fine too. You got the pack and go option there. Again, this is going to include the drawing file and the assembly. If you do it just over the assembly file, it's going to include just the assembly file. So when you go into pack and go, it's got some information here under the options. You want to copy all the information to a single path, or do you want to keep the folder hierarchy? If you're making a complete design change, you might want to think about choosing the copy to single path. That's going to take the assembly file and all the part files, all the needed information, assembly file to open, and it will push that into a single folder. So from there, you can do a zip folder. Again, it might be a little easier managing it that way. You can just tell it to include the model files only, not the linked files. Again, you would not have the spreadsheets, the other information that you may want to tie drawing files. Again, you may just want the model information. The libraries, you may want to skip libraries, because if you're going to tie the files back in, and your libraries are dictated in your your project file, there's no need to make an extra copy of those files. The work groups, if you had subfolders, again, collecting work groups from your project file settings. So again, it's not something you would really have that checked off. The styles and the templates, again, maybe it's unnecessary information that you need to make double copies of. And again, this is setting to package it as a zip file. Up here is where you're telling it what you want to go from in your destination folder. You'd come in here and a second, go seminars, and I could come in here and say, PNG or PG copy. And at this point now, it's going to use the project file that I've set. And again, you're working on the assembly file. You do a search now. What it's going to do is it's going to find all the number of files that it needs, that is disk space that it's going to be needed, and go ahead and say start, and it'll go ahead and do the process. And I'll just flip to my file explorer here real quick. And there I'm in seminars files. I apologize, it doesn't seem like it created the folder here. I had to flip back here. I just realized I didn't have the folder structure where I wanted. It's actually C:*seminars PG copy. So if I flip back to my Explorer, you'll notice under seminars, there's a PG copy, and then there's a whole full-blown copy of the data that I just pushed across. So that's a little bit on the pack and go feature. It's pretty handy. Again, makes a complete copy of the data that you're doing here. So you may want to go in and rename the top level assembly, and that is something I will show you a little bit later on. So I'm just going to say done here. And as you can see throughout the couple of files that I've brought up here, if you open any IDW or DWG file, the first thing it will tell you on a little plus sign, if you collapse it, will tell you any associated files. If there was a spreadsheet, this happens to be a title block, which has a title block image linked to it. So that's a quick way you can see what other file dependencies are in the associated Inventor file. As far as the preview goes, it's again pretty straightforward. Whatever you highlight here, it will show you. I'll hit refresh. Shows you that I got the top level IDW is showing, and in this case, I've now highlighted the assembly file. Now I've got the faceplate. Now I've got the handle cap, and you have up to 6 of these to see. And if you were to start to click, you notice that they start to reset and go through, and there's where the refresh comes in. That's a little bit on the preview part. The manage is where you'll do a bulk of your work. Again, I'm calling in here. and selected the AvaPress, it basically tells me that I do have two OLE links that are in these particular files. There's two of them, and one's the bitmap, the bitmap for the title block image. The other one is I believe there's an Excel spreadsheet that's linked to the part file, and those just can't be managed in a way. Those will stay intact. So basically, just say OK to that. And here is where a lot of your information is done. And again, I'm not going to go through and show you the renaming part of it, because there's a lot of closing and opening and Inventor to show you this information. But I've got the assembly file open here, and here are my actions. This is where if I right click at the top level, I can't rename it because it's a top level file, but I can make a copy of it. And you can see over here, you kind of work right to left. Excuse me, work left to right. So if I'm here in the action, and it says here, modify now, it says require edit, location workspace, the folder. And at this point, if you're going to do a copy, you could do change name. You could change the path. And I'm right clicking in the columns here. Change location. So this is where you can do that. If you're doing a copy, maybe you're just copying the file name and you want it in the same folder. Maybe you want a different folder. So here is where you basically do the manipulation of the copy. If I go underneath it, for one, you'll see that there's rename and copy. So I can start renaming the information underneath it. So this here is in fact the drawing, right? See the IDW, so I can rename anything underneath that, so I can actually rename the assembly file. I'm not sure you really want to do that, but again, maybe it was the collar here that you wanted to rename. I think I hit replace. There we go, rename, and I can come in here and say change name, and I could say collar 2 or something. So that's where you can do all of your renaming. And again, once you go ahead and you push your files through on the copy and rename processes here. So again, I'll come in over, I'll change the name, and you can see that it comes up the collar, and I'll just call it beta 1, just to give it a different name. So once you make a change, and even though, let me clear the action on that one. I'm actually not going to change the IDW top one. I can clear this action up the top. Actually, I didn't have an action set, but the reason why it says updated here is if you're making a change at a part level, it's actually going to update the assembly file. So there's some intelligence built in here. And the last thing what you want to do is anything is in yellow, you've made modifications, you have to come up and hit save, and the updates are complete. And you can kind of see as you come over here, you can now see it's got the new name. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll open up Inventor. So I'm in Inventor, and what I'll do is I'll go to open, and in the AvaPress, there's your components, and you can see the collar beta 1. So you can see how it renames it, and the information is kept intact. If I opened the top level assembly, what was happening is the design assistant was open in the background, and it's really a no-no to have it open while you're trying to launch Inventor. But I had to close it. The file is now open. The assembly file is now open, and you can kind of see through the browser that there is the caller beta 1. So again, it's a nice tool that allows you to manipulate and make changes, make complete copies, rename, all kinds of different things you can do in there. Definitely want to check that out. May make your life a little easier in managing your files. And next up, I just wanted to take another few minutes and just talk about another tool that I field some questions on throughout the years. What happens if you have an update in your title block and you have hundreds and hundreds of older IDWs, DWG files that have that older information title block? What is very painful is if you don't understand or realize this tool is available to you, you're deleting title blocks and swapping out and putting in new ones. It's a timely process. What you have here inside the Inventor install package is a small program called the Drawing Transfer Resource Wizard. Just like the Design Assistant, you'll find this in the install folder on the Start menu. So again, this is located in the same area that Design Assistant is in. This can only be used with IDW and DWG files. Relatively simple. You're going to be selecting a source file, and then you'll be selecting destination files that have the information copied into. There is no need to delete the older information if it's the same name. If you have a title block called company title block, and it's existing in your older IDWs, you do not have to go in there and pre-delete those. This will automatically overwrite them. And again, your allows you to select multiple objects. You can do all. You could do whichever ones you wish to push across. There is some flexibility. The resource wizard's pretty straightforward UI, as you can see in the screenshot. Your drawing resources, you have borders and title blocks and sketch symbols that you can select. And once you select the source, you get into the next area where it talks about selecting your destination file. You can select more than one individual file. You can select a folder destination. And again, this is made to quickly push this data from one file to another, almost in a way of how Design Assistant was working between the files. It'll give you the warning that it will overwrite the information. So it does give you a safety option on the back end. The next option, before it starts to begin the batch processing, it will tell you the number of information that's being pushed across. In this example, I have no borders. I have 2 title blocks and 1 sketch symbol and only 1 drawing. So it does give you an idea of what you're going to be doing. And in the last dialog box, is basically a log file of telling you if everything copied across okay. Again, it's pretty straightforward. With that, I'll just do a quick little demo on this process. So I've opened up Inventor, and I just want to show you the drawing resources. You'll notice in each IDW and DWG file, there is a folder at the top. And this is where you can actually see the borders, the title blocks, and the symbols. In this particular case, I have 1 sketch symbol. And if I can double click and bring it in, it's just a mock finish symbol or something to represent something along that nature. And in the title block, you'll notice down the bottom here that I've got a bitmap image in there. There's a little bit of overlapping going on, but there's a bitmap image just to show you that there's a difference in the transfer itself of the title block. And let me just go ahead. I've got another file in here called destination. I used this earlier, but you can see in this one, I have a title block called ANSI large, ANSI A. It's the same in there. I have no sketch symbols. So I'm going to go ahead and close these files. And I'm going to close down Inventor. So I've gone down to the Start menu and selected the Drawing Transfer Resource Wizard from the Inventor 2021 folder. And you can see that this simple dialog box pops up, giving you a basic idea of what we're going to be doing. And again, from my source file, I'll go into that seminar folder. And there's my source file. I'll say open, and it'll take a minute, depending on the size of the file, to populate all this information. And once again, you can see the information in here. Now it's up to you which you want to select to copy in. You know, in this case, I do want all my sketch symbols. I do want the title blocks to come in. I'll say next. I'll pick my destination folder. Next. It'll warn me about the replacement. Tells me what the information is going to be pushed across. And ends up with your log file. I'll just exit out of this. And we'll start Inventor. Okay, now I've got Inventor open. And I'll go ahead and I'll open up my destination file. And you'll notice there that down the bottom, I have my new title block with the new image in it. And you can also see that I do have the symbol test. So again, to go through that Drawing Transfer Resource Wizard, I did record initially saying no to overwriting the definitions. And if I were to go through that, and you would eventually ended up with copies underneath it. So you'd have a copy of ANSI and a copy large. And again, I'll run through that really briefly here. Again, as I have the Drawing Transfer Resource Wizard open, I'll basically go through scans the drawing information, finally populates it, pick my source file, and here is where I had gone through and said no here. Would you like to replace these resources? You want to do yes. This will actually overwrite the existing ones. If not, you say no, these will make copies and push the copies in. So there is some flexibility there. So that was a little bit on the Drawing Transfer Resource Wizard. And I wanted to mention that this concludes today's webinar, and I appreciate all of you who are viewing this and may found the information here useful. If there's any questions, there's some contact information on our screen. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to view this content.